morning, my fellow spiritual seekers and travelers. I've been wanting to say that for a long time. One of the spiritual teachers I listen to on YouTube always greets us that way, and I love it. And I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to see all of you. Let me start out with a poem by Thomas Rhodes, and I'll make a connection to it later. We come in a variety of colors, shapes, and sizes. Some of us grow in bunches. Some of us grow alone. Some of us are cupped inward, and some of us spread ourselves out and wide. Some of us are old and dried and tougher than we appear. And some of us are still in bud. Some of us grow low to the ground, and some of us stretch toward the sun. Some of us feel like weeds, sometimes. Some of us carry seeds, sometimes. Some of us are prickly, sometimes. Some of us smell. And all of us are beautiful. What a bouquet of people we are. Embracing community. As I glance around, I see a beautiful bouquet of people, all individual expressions of God. As much as our individuality defines us, we also need other people to make our limbic circus function the way evolution has built us. That's according to an article I read by Dr. Kendall Gibbons. She further states, to the core of our chemistry and our neural networks, we are a social species. Our physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual well-being depends on our connections, both to the world and to our fellow humans. Coming together as we do, whether it's here in person or virtually during these days of social distancing, is sharing a spiritual message is keeping alive that connective tissue that makes us who we are and enables us to imagine what we may yet become. Some of the work we do alone, in moments of inspiration or insight. But I think more of it happens in the company of other seekers, where we help each other grow, nurturing each other's roots in our shared ground. We bring those big, deep questions we've been grappling with to Sunday school or a spiritual class where we focus less on ourselves and most on what unites us. We bring our concerns and request prayers from our prayer chaplains. We sit next to each other and see the face of God in the other. We lift our hearts in praise and make music with our blended voices. We cultivate love by breaking bread together during our potlucks. Don't you miss our potlucks? We allow our most vulnerable selves to be deeply seen and known when we share a spiritual reading, a sermon, as I'm doing now, perform a song we've written, etc. Let me tell you a little secret. As an introvert, I have no difficulty being alone in my company. Though I enjoy me, I understand that I need community. Reminding myself of something I heard years ago. Individuals standing alone have about as much strength as a bunch of stones lying around on the ground. It is only when a mason picks up those stones and builds a wall that they they become powerful. That's how it is with communities. Together we have more power. In fact, some people believe that the idea of an individual makes no sense except in the context of community. How can you have individuals with no relationships or ties to a community? There is a story of a certain order of monks during the Middle Ages. They lived quietly at their monastery, and part of their role was that periodically they each took an individual retreat. The length of the retreat was up to the individual monk, and for some it would last a very long time indeed. One day, a monk sought out the abbot and asked for permission to go on his retreat. The abbot gave his permission, and off the monk went. The monk came to the hermitage and opened a Bible that was there. It happened to open a passage in the Gospel of John that described Jesus washing his disciples' feet. The monk read that passage and meditated on it for a couple of days, then abruptly got up and returned to the monastery. As was the custom, he presented himself to the abbot, who was surprised to see him return so soon. "So you have returned already?" said the abbot, and the monk replied, "Of course. For whose feet would the hermit wash?" And that is what community is about. It is about washing feet, figuratively speaking, serving each other in humility and generosity. It is about creating ways to help each other. It is about reaching out to each other and touching, sometimes literally with a gentle and healing hand, and sometimes with a caress of a soul. And it means reaching out and asking for help. Now to share a little bit about my spiritual journey and why I brought these flowers. Prior to returning to San Angelo, I spent a few years attending the Unitarian Universalist Church. It was there that I was introduced to the flower communion, or flower ceremony, as some people choose to call it. It was a tradition that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I thought it'd be nice to share a little bit about it to you. And now for a little bit of history. Reverend Norbert Capek introduced the ceremony in 1923 to the Unitarian Church that he founded in Prague. For some time, he had felt the need for some symbolic ritual that would bind people more closely together. And the format had to be one that would not alienate any who had forsaken other religious traditions. The traditional Christian communion service with bread and wine was unacceptable to the members of his congregation because of their strong reaction against the Catholic faith. So he turned to the native beauty of their countryside for elements of a communion which would be genuine to them. A simple service was the result, and it became quite a success. It is a ceremony usually conducted before summertime, before the church closed for the summer. And after visiting other congregations, I've discovered that no two ceremonies are the same. The significance of the flower ceremony is that no two flowers are alike. So no two people are alike, yet we each have a contribution to make. Together, the flowers form a beautiful bouquet. Our common bouquet would not be the same without the unique addition of each individual flower. And thus it is with our church community. It would not be the same with each and every one of us. If we weren't dealing with the coronavirus, I would have asked you to bring a flower with you this morning and place it into a vase. During the ceremony, you would have picked a different flower that someone else brought. And this exchange of flowers shows our willingness to work together in search of our truth, disregarding all that might divide us. My heart is grateful. I'm grateful you've given me this opportunity to share something that is special to me. And I leave you with a communion blessing by Thomas Rhodes. Within our hands, we hold the resurrection of the world. Transient and imperfect, these blossoms are still gifts of infinite value, just like ourselves. Too often we seek permanence and perfection, resisting change, blind to our shortcomings. We become caught up in the petty issues and routine activities of our daily lives. But many of these flowers serve as a reminder, as they allow themselves to open to the heavens, for despite their imperfections, they still have integrity. And though they are transient, they contain the seeds of transcendence, just like ourselves. Let us then open ourselves to mystery and wonder, fretting not about small mishaps, or even, for now, great misfortune. For the resurrection of the world is at our fingertips. The resurrection lies within us. Let us keep a moment of silent appreciation together. May our lives bloom just like these flowers. Namaste.